again, welcome back to another episode of Two Poets, the show where we talk about stuff and do stuff and write stuff.
Yep.
That's it. That's all the information you're getting. So if you haven't listened by now, that's what we do.
Just stuff. That's all
just
it is.
Stuff.
Just random everyday stuff.
We should have called this podcast Two Guys Doing Stuff.
Two Guys Doing Stuff.
That might not be good, actually. Great way to start the episode, Ben.
I still like our original Two Poets, One Pen. Sorry, that's our other show. So have fun looking that one up. All right. Anyways, so welcome to the show. Yes, we are back. This is episode 4. And for those of you watching and for those of you listening right now, we have someone special sitting with us today. Yay.
We have an amazing author who is here. Hogan Burleigh is with us today. How you doing, Hogan?
Pretty good. Pretty happy to be here.
Good. Awesome. Yeah. Well, welcome. She is our first guest. Yeah. So no pressure.
She's my wife.
We weren't supposed to tell people about that.
Oh, my bad.
Now people are going to think we're doing like special treatment or something.
No. Well, I mean, see, it'd be a coincidence since we just have the same last name.
Yeah. So we're going to play it off, you know.
No Very relation. Happy to be here.
No relation. We're just sleeping together. That's all.
Yeah, I mean.
Ben, we talked about this before the show.
Sorry.
We weren't going to go there.
Read the mug. Read the mug.
Yeah.
And remember, this is a podcast. So those listening, the mug says, I do what I want with the cat flipping people
yeah,
off.
we got to tell. No, they just got to go to YouTube now.
Yeah, that's true. You just have to go to YouTube and see the show. No, but awesome. Episode 4, our first guest. This is a milestone, first guest. Yeah. You know, we love having that. And we are so excited to talk to Hogan tonight about all the amazing work that she's done. When we're talking about creative people, she is definitely fits into that as
absolutely
someone we can all learn a lot from. So,
yes.
And she's pretty accomplished. Right? You know,
yes.
I think you've done a few things, you know.
Maybe, I guess.
We'll probably have to pull a lot of stuff out of her because she's very modest about her accomplishments. So
we'll do all the the crazy stuff for you. Yeah,
I mean, once you get me talking, I honestly, you might need to tell me to shut up.
That is true.
Let me tell you. I feel like you're gonna have an awkward ride home after the show.
I won't be riding home. I'll be walking.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Yeah, because you would totally do.
Okay.
So how's y'all's week? I mean,
it was pretty chill. Actually, I've actually been enjoying the rain, even though we've had so much. So today was actually pretty nice. But yeah,
nice.
It's been nice.
Yeah, very
nice
chill.
Rainy week.
Very chill.
A lot of writing, a lot of little projects, side projects we're working on. So
very cool.
It's been good.
Yeah. How about you?
I've been doing good. As a busy week at work, just doing. I'm building walls all week for our immersive art exhibit that we're working on. So we're getting closer to doing that. We built this cool front end of the spaceship that we're working on for our immersive project. We've ripped the front of this mobile home off, like completely off, and we're building this cool bridge, the Star Trek style bridge. You can just like walk on, it has like control panel and everything.
I cannot wait to see that. I saw Ben's video talking about the nose that they put in.
Yes, it's so excited. So cool. Yeah, so we love building weird things. But other than that, the weather's been nice. I kind of like the rain, but not when, like you said, not when we're getting so much of it. I like being able to just have the cool weather. But today it's like that mix of cool and muggy, and it was like warm at some point. And so, what is this, Florida? I mean,
come on. No kidding. But cold. Florida was cold and gloomy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida is a lot of things, but gloomy is one of them.
Yeah. Awesome.
Do y'all have any exciting new drinks this week on your coffee explorations?
I have a coffee at home that I've been brewing, and it's been super good.
Oh yeah, you got a new grinder, right?
I did.
Did you get to try that out?
I ended up getting the Opus grinder by Fellow, and that's been a lot of fun. And I'll be talking about that on our next episode.
Oh, that's right, because you and Hogan have a podcast together. Right?
We have our own podcast.
Nice segue.
So Hogan, so we can get Ben to shut up for a little bit. Hogan, why don't you tell us what your other podcast is?
So our podcast together is called Pages and Pours, and it is a book and coffee themed podcast. Our favorite things.
Oh yeah.
So we just find lots of awesome stuff to talk about within those categories. And we do have the conversational style too, but it's really just an excuse to talk about just the things we enjoy together.
Yeah,
and
pretty
drink
much.
lots of coffee.
Exactly. Yeah. Hogan reads like crazy. She's a book fiend. She'll read like a book a day if she had the chance. Mm-hmm. And we went through this phase where she was reading all the time. And then we would be like at home or something. And she's like, let me tell you about this book. And then we would get into this conversation and she would just talk about the book. We'd talk about the writing style. We'd talk about characters. And we're like, this is actually really fun. This is interesting too. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we should just like do a show talking about our books that we read and stuff. And so that's kind of how that started.
Yeah. It's just stuff we do normally anyway. And then it's just fun to actually be really purposeful with it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's an excuse to hang out.
Yeah. It's like, we do this anyway, so let's just throw it on the internet.
Exactly. Might as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, once again, thanks for having us. And we're excited to dive in to some questions and stuff for you later. Yes. But first, the real reason everyone's here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we should dive into our poetry. Okay, so our prompt last week was Frisian. If y'all remember listening, for those of you who haven't listened yet, last week we got a prompt, Frisian, which is the theme that we have to write this week's poem after. And for those of you who don't know what Frisian is like the feeling you get, when you listen to a really good song or just a piece of music that it just excites you and the cold chills, aka the goosebumps. Goose pimples. That's basically what Frisian is. I mean, there's more to it, but goose pimples.
Yeah, I hate that.
Well, I went to the wrong file. I got to find my poem. There it is. Okay. I feel like I've been going first a lot, so I think you need to go first this time.
Well, I will go first then.
Oh, also, this prompt was given to us by Lauren Kelly, which is my wife.
Hey!
So, yeah.
It's a family affair.
It is a family business.
Okay. I wrote a few things, actually. I struggled with this one a little bit just because I feel like for a prompt like this, if you're writing about a word that is in actuality a feeling, you want to capture that feeling somehow. And I was struggling to capture the feeling. So I wrote 3 or 4 things. And I was just like, I'm reaching. I don't like any of them. And I ended up I have this memory that I ended up thinking about. And so that's what I wrote about. So
okay, cool.
Hopefully it's good. But I won't tell you the title yet because, I don't want to give anything away. So, okay. So this is my poem and I honestly don't remember how old I kind of was around this hazy memory, but okay. I have this memory. My family is moving into a house and in the kitchen are these exposed wires where the oven will be tied into the wall. For some reason, I remember sitting there on the floor, staring at them. But everything surrounding this memory feels hazy. One instant, I am crouching between cabinets. Then the next, I am sitting against the wall opposite the room, almost as if waking up from a groggy dream. And I don't know why. To this day, I don't know where this memory came from, or if it even is a memory, rather some strange dream where I'm just sitting there for an unspecified amount of time. If it is a dream, that would make more sense. But if it is an actual memory, then how is it I found myself in one spot, then another, yet I don't remember making the decision to move? Did I get tired and lean against the wall? Did I stare at the wires for such an extended amount of time that my eyes zoned out and my brain wandered away from my body for a moment or two? Or did something else happen? Was I tempted by curiosity beyond reasoning? Could thoughts in my head have beckoned me to reach out a finger? Could I have somehow touched the wire? Of course, that's beyond all probability. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here now reading this. But then, am I really here after all? Where is here? Is this even my life? Is this life even real? Was that a dream that I groggily woke up from? Or is that a memory that actually put me to sleep?
Very cool.
I titled that one Death Dream.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Very somber.
Yes.
Yeah. But I like somber.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to dive into more of that, more of asking questions about your poem here in a second.
Cool.
But now for something completely different.
Nice. I did kind of go with the more like, not like happy kind of teen, like it was more of a like, I don't know, not creepy or something, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I went the complete opposite way, and I actually, I don't do a lot of like love poems, but I felt like when I was sitting down to write, it kind of just came out kind of a love poem.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, this is what I'm going with. And I called this one, Your Love is Like Frisian, because I couldn't think of a name.
Nice. Awesome.
All right. Your words mimic the notes of my favorite song. Verse, chorus, this has become about us in ways I never imagined. Your touch is a symphony orchestrated by fate, strings, and brass. The players play away from their sheets. I feel it was written for me and only me because, you see, I have never felt this way. Here comes the crescendo, louder and louder. I feel it in my chest first like a knock in my soul, pulling me to pay attention. Then, like a northern wind blowing through my ear cavities, I ascend. I ascend into bliss, and I don't want to miss a second of this, so I hold you and let your words mimic the notes and begin again.
Nice. I love that.
I like the imagery in that one.
I also kept it short this time.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Sometimes the shortest ones hit the hardest, you know?
Yeah.
I love that.
The old 1-2 punch.
Yeah. I love a good love poem.
Yeah, so what went through your head writing this one? What gives the details?
Okay, so I do actually have a memory of sitting in the kitchen, sitting on the floor looking at these wires, and I don't know, I honestly don't think I touched the wires, obviously, but I do have a memory of like being there, looking at them, and then kind of like, I guess, zoning out or something, and then like realizing where I was. I don't know if you ever have those moments where you're just like, you're somewhere and then you catch yourself daydreaming or something, and then you like kind of come to and you're like, what am I looking at?
That happens to me a lot.
Yeah, it's like it happens to me with people too. Like I'll be talking to someone, or I'll be sitting somewhere looking at someone, and then my brain resets or something, and it's like, am I really seeing this person? Is this person really here in front of me? Where am I right now? You know? And so it was one of those kind of things, like my brain somehow just zoned out or something. And I guess I just sat down in the kitchen. But there has always been that weird lingering what if of like, what if I had a moment where I like died or something and came back, you know? And then you get into the crazy rabbit trail in your brain of like, what if I'm dead?
Yeah.
Like I'm dead right now and this whole thing isn't even real and I'm in some weird brain limbo kind of thing, you know? So it was kind of like, oh, that's a cool concept that I could turn into something. And it is kind of a real thing. It's a memory or something. And I probably would have been, when we moved into that house, I probably would have been like 7, I think. Cause my dad this was after he was a pastor at a church, and we lived in a parsonage, and then we moved to this house. And so, it was just one of those, I just have that weird memory. I've always kind of had that. And I've always had the thought of like, what if I really did touch the wire and I died and no one knew it because no one was around, and then somehow I came back to life, you know? It's one of those weird things. So
I totally have thoughts like that where I'm wondering if I'm even here, or is this really what my life is? I think you said that in there somewhere.
Totally.
Be driving down the road and all of a sudden it's like you come to yourself all of a sudden, like you come back to yourself and you're like, oh, is this really my life?
That's exactly.
Was I somewhere else before this? I don't know how that happens or why it happens, but I have that a lot. So.
That's exactly what I was going to say, was driving. I do that a lot too. Like we'll be driving somewhere.
That's the scariest though.
Yeah. Cause it's like, oh crap, I could literally just zone out and we could go off the road and die.
You've been driving for like 30 minutes and you're like, I don't remember passing any of the stuff that we pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also one of those things, like if you have like a 20-minute commute to work, you make that commute every day, right? And I'm sure at some point your brain just clocks out, you know, and it's like, wait, I'm at work.
Yeah. You go on autopilot.
Yeah. It's like, how did I get here? I don't even remember the drive here. It's like that scene from, I know it's not the same thing, but it always makes me think of the scene in The Office where they're driving and Michael Scott's wearing like the dark sunglasses and he was just like snaps away. And they're like, who? He's like, I was asleep. Those sunglasses are really dark. And I was like, but you were driving.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing.
But yeah, it's kind of the same thing in the sense of like, I don't remember what I was just doing.
Yep.
I do similar stuff to that. Like I will have an intention to do something and I will think it up in my head. I'll even hype it up like, oh, on the way, I'm going to stop and do this, or I need to go here, or I need to do something. And I start thinking about what I need to do. And then I realize I have completely driven past where I was supposed to go to do the thing I was just thinking about.
You do that a lot.
I do that stuff a lot. My brain like zones out. So
you're in your head too much, I think.
I guess so.
That's where you live.
I do have that happen to me a lot too, but I have had a point one time I was driving to Wisconsin with some friends to play a show. It was like an acoustic show. It was me and my two friends, Paul and James. Actually, I think Jonathan was there too. So I think it was 4 of us. But it was like a 12-hour drive to Wisconsin, to Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And there was a turn I was supposed to make, but I was just like so in the zone driving. And then like someone, or I think it was like James, my buddy James, he was like looking at the map and he's like pointing this way. He's like, we're supposed to be here.
Where are we?
We're right here. And apparently I had driven 2 hours past our turn off. So it wasn't just like a simple little, it was like, no, I had gone 2 hours past our turn off and now we had to like double back and go.
Crap.
And I was like, but sometimes you're just in the zone. Your just brain's not thinking.
Were you late to the gig?
I think we actually got there on time because our plan was to be there early, you know.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think we got there like as it was starting.
Right.
I was like,
I'm sorry. So like no sound check.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, there's an acoustic set, so
yeah,
that's awesome.
But no, I think like that poem goes really well with the theme because having those thoughts and those being in that situation where it's like, am I dead? Am I like, is this all real? Like that's like a feeling in itself, you know. It brings on just kind of like that. There could be a sense of fear. There could be a sense of wonder, you know, and that's all just kind of, I feel like fits under that vibe.
Totally. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you feel that way. I struggled. So I'm glad it turned out good.
I really enjoyed that one.
What was the inspiration for your poem?
Love.
I can guess,
but no, I mean, when I was sitting there kind of thinking about it, I was like, you know, Frisian. I was like thinking of the best way to go with it. Do you go abstract? Do you go right on the nose? And then obviously anytime I think of Frisian, I think of music just because I feel like that's where you experience it the most, which I'm sure that depending on who you are, you can experience it different ways. But I feel like for me anyways, music is where I experience Frisian the most. Just like you just zoning out, listen to a song and then just, that's so good. Or those lyrics, you just feel it, you know, in your soul. And I was like, it's kind of a lot of like love too. We're in that kind of that love phase where everything's kind of new and you just get those feelings, you know, and just it can be this roller coaster of feelings. And it's like the same when you listen to like a symphony or music, there's just like this roller coaster of emotions that go with it. And I was like, that's a lot like love in a sense, you know, and we're talking about the feelings as like when you go to a concert, when you go to a symphony, whatever, it's like you don't only hear the song, but you feel the sound system, you feel the crowd, you feel the strings. It's a lot different than just throwing some headphones on and listening to a song when you're actually at a concert, at a venue where there's like subs going on like and you just feel it in your chest, you know? Yeah. And so that was just kind of the inspiration for this one, was just kind of combining of how similar the two can be.
I love that.
Yeah, they really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what was the last song that you heard that you can remember that gave you a feeling of Frisian?
I know there's been some, but there is, so Sarah Bareilles has a song, what's the name of the song? I love the song, but now I forgot the name of it.
Sorry, I know I put you on the spot a little bit.
No.
There's a word for that too when you're gonna say something.
It's called a brain fart.
Yeah.
There's another word for it, and it goes right out of your head.
Gosh, what is the name of the song? Anyways, like there's this part in the song. It's a love song. It's Gravity. Yeah, the name of the song, Gravity.
Oh, okay.
And it's a piano ballad.
Yeah.
And so it's just like very beautiful. It's like slow and beautiful. The melody is great. It's just her on the piano, but there's this part in the bridge where it starts building up.
Yeah.
And then it does this thing where like after the bridge, it cuts out and she just goes up on this high note and just like holds it out and does this like really cool run with her voice, but it's still like haunting and just like not overbearing. And I know I've listened to other songs since then where I've got that feeling, but that one always stands out to me when I think of Frigid, because every time I hear that, I'm just like, no matter what I'm doing, it's just like, get it. You know, you just feel it.
Totally.
Yeah, I love that.
What about you?
Do you know the one I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
Oh, the Barney theme song?
Yeah, actually.
I love you. I have a song in mind, but go ahead.
It's the one, and it's been a bit since I've listened to it. So yeah, I think I've probably listened to some since then that have given me the feeling. But this one, every single time I listen to it, and if I'm in kind of a down mood or kind of like, I did it a lot when we were leaving work, I would put the song on. Or going to work, put the song on.
I just want to feel that feeling.
Yeah. It's the one called, isn't it called Sugar?
Oh, yeah. By the Surf. What's their name?
Surf Curse.
Surf Curse.
Yeah.
Tell me you love me and give me some sugar.
Yeah, he like does
Just
that.
like that.
Oh, it's so great.
He does that kind of scream note. Yeah, and I love that certain sound that always like scratches the itch in my brain.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love that song. And then, oh gosh, there's I'm going blank too. There's that group that I missed it because I think I was a little too young when they were really popular. So I didn't hear them until, in my 20s. Panic at the Disco.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Death of a Bachelor.
that song really,
I know.
for some reason. Yeah, that one really gets me every time. I have to like stop and listen to it.
Yeah, I will say like there's something about his voice that's different.
Dude,
it's
certain
its own
notes.
unique. Yeah.
Totally.
That's what it is for me. It's certain notes when they're hit a certain way, and it just for some reason it feels really good in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
Or on the sides right here.
Yeah. Totally.
So
Man.
yeah.
That's awesome.
What about you?
So the last one that I remember was Golden Hour.
Yeah.
The new song.
Oh,
but the version of it was this kid on a college campus. He walked into a busy like cafeteria area where there was a piano and he just sat down and played it, just pure instrumental. And something about like the instrumental with this busyness all around, and then it just gets like, just the build of it. It was just really.
Are you talking
really
about
good.
the Casey Musgraves Golden Hour song, or which Golden Hour?
Whichever one is the TikTok sensation.
I think it is.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I can't remember the guy's name.
Has a beautiful piano in it.
Starts off really.
Well, Casey Musgraves is a female country artist, so I doubt it's probably that one that you're
not
probably
that
thinking. Okay. Which that song is also amazing.
When you hear it, you'll be like, oh yeah, this one.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's been going around.
But I cannot remember the guy's name. I remember seeing because he got it blew up because he recorded himself playing that song for his piano teacher.
Yeah, okay, yes, I know exactly what song that is.
So
Yeah,
there was so this kid walks into a college campus and he sits down at this upright piano and there's like 150, 200 people in there and he just starts playing and it's in this big open space, so it echoes throughout the whole space. And it is just beautiful. And there's something about hearing that just instrumentally was just really impactful.
very cool.
Yeah, that song's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah, I need to go back and listen to it again. But I do remember seeing that video. That was a pretty cool video. Awesome. Well, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed our poems this week.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun writing them.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I'm excited. My favorite part's at the end of the show where we figure out what we have to write next. So stick around to the end of the episode and we'll see what we have to do next. All right, and so we have a special guest with us, like we said. Hogan, thank you so much once again for being with us.
Thank you.
So for those who don't know who you are, this is your chance to pitch yourself. Why don't you introduce...
My favorite
thing.
Favorite thing in the
Introduce
world.
us to who Hogan is, kind of what you've done, and then we'll kind of dive in. So
Okay. I have 2 published books at this point. I have been writing ever since I can remember. I was telling Ben just the other day, I think it was the first episode you guys did, you talked about remembering kind of when you all started writing. Do you remember the first things you started writing, what age you were? And for me, I can't remember a certain age. I feel like I've always been writing.
Yeah.
I have stuff from when I was little and, you know, when my writing was still like big and like, you know, learning
so you
letters.
Like came out the womb and immediately started writing about your experience in
there. I would draw pictures and write stories to the pictures, which plays into I'm also an artist. I have my own art business on the side. And so that's just always been a part of me, art and writing. And reading, of course. I published my first book when I was 18, and that was such an amazing experience. I mostly did it to show myself I could.
Yeah.
And then I just loved the process so much that I just, the dream was born within me I just want to write the rest of my life, and I want to publish as many books as I can. Obviously, I'm older than 18 now. I didn't get my second book out as soon as I had hoped, because, you know, getting into your 20s, I kind of had that period of time where I started believing societal things about how art isn't as important, or you don't need to put all of your time to these things. You need to focus on careers, stuff like that. And I kind of set my writing to the side, and I didn't get back into writing until about 3-ish years ago. Yeah. Like, seriously. I've been writing off and on for years, but I didn't like start to seriously pursue finishing and publishing another novel until about 3 years ago. And ever since then, it's been great because I feel like I've stepped back into myself.
Yeah. Awesome.
Into the part of myself that I had like kind of allowed to go dormant for a bit. So yeah.
Very cool.
There's a really good feeling about that when you have gotten caught up in life and you've gotten caught up in work and caught up in all these other things. And then you remember, oh yeah, I used to really enjoy doing this. Yeah. And then you come back to that thing and it's like you unlock a part of yourself that you forgot about. There's something really like refreshing in coming back to that.
Yeah. It felt like I was remembering who I was. The biggest point for me was a few years ago, I was talking with someone just about how my life kind of looked different in certain aspects than I thought it would. Like, you know, 18-year-old me, what I thought I would be doing at 20-something years old, and how one of my biggest dreams had always been to write. And here I hadn't published another book, and that's something that burns so like deep in me, and yet I haven't done it, and how like important that was to me. And that's why I was pursuing writing again. And the friend I was talking to, because I said, you know, I don't identify first most as an artist, which a lot of people would say. They would say, oh, Hogan's an artist. That would be the first thing they said, which is great. I am. But to myself, I'm a writer. When I think of who is Hogan, it's a writer. Yeah. And I was telling this to my friend, and she was like, oh, really? You would say you're a writer over an artist? And that like shook my foundation, because I was like, yes, isn't that obvious? You know,
because that's who you saw yourself as. But
yeah. And I had kind of allowed that part of me to kind of be tucked away. It was still there, and I knew who she was, and I knew that I wanted that in my life somehow. But the fact that I had gotten to that point in my mid-20s and I wasn't living that part of myself like I wanted to be.
Well, and the people closest to you didn't relate that to you.
Yeah. Like
that's a wake-up call.
That really shook me. And so that really got me even more focused, because at the time I was getting back into writing. That really told me, yeah, okay, you need to be doing this, because people don't even for sure know who you are, and the people that are closest to you even.
Yeah.
You know, and so that just really kind of catapulted me forward. And I wrote my latest novel and published it in oh my goodness. When was it? It was 2021. Yeah.
2021.
Oh, yeah. It's already been, yeah.
Because you started writing it late 2020 and you wrote it. How fast did you write that?
I technically wrote it all and got it all put together for publishing within 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, it was like 3 months. It was fast.
And, you know, in that time, I had started writing the book. I had really gotten on that path that this is what I'm pursuing again and taking a hold of for myself. And in the middle of that, I lost someone really close to me.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, that really played into my need to get this out there, to finish it for sure.
The motivation there at that point.
Yeah, kind of to finish it, not only for myself now, but to finish it for her and get it out and no longer like hide that part of myself. And so that, I mean, that really made me go even harder at it. So that's probably why it came out a lot faster.
You like poured yourself into that, and that was your way to, that was kind of like your grieving process for that.
Yes. I really poured myself into it. And I think that, I mean, that's the beauty of creating whatever you're doing, whatever art form you're pouring yourself into. The beauty of it is you can, I mean, give yourself to it and it can wrap around you and be whatever you need in that moment. And what I needed was comfort, and I needed reminder, like a reminder of who I was. And so that was my latest book. Yeah.
And I think a lot of us need that reminder of who we are from time to time, you know, and for some, they may not come for years, you know, and some they may have the reminder every day, but I think, it's important to remember who we are. And like you said, I am an author. People may not see me that way, but I am an author, you know, I'm a writer. Now, when it comes to your books, what genre would you tell people that you write?
I mainly write light fantasy, kind of within the not overly detailed fantastical worlds, but within, you know, my own made up realms and things like that. I try to make them very character driven, emotionally driven, especially this last one. And with this last book too, I feel like I really, really found my voice because between 18 publishing my first book, which that book I started writing when I was 12. Yeah. So that book went through a lot of like drafts and changes and stuff. And even now looking on that book, I would change so much about it, of course, because I was so young. I'm sure we all would. Yeah, I was so young. And now publishing my latest novel, A Song of Light and Sorrow, when I was 26, I think around then. My writing style changed so much, and I found so much more of myself. And I realized the type of stories I want to be writing are not only the fantasy, the like character driven. I also want to have emotional stories, emotional like journeys for the characters, not just whatever action and adventure they're having. I want to have some underlying like emotion. Yeah. And the last book really helped me find that. Yeah. Find that part of myself. So that's kind of like where I'm at. I'm currently writing a new novel right now that I'm planning to have out by the end of this year. And it also falls within that just emotional, character driven.
Still fantasy realm.
Yeah, still fantasy. I like creating my own worlds. Yeah. And sometimes even my own languages. I like doing that. And like kind of mapping out the kingdoms and stuff like that. That's just really fun to me. So I always try to weave that in a little bit. But yeah, I grew up reading so much fantasy, so I know that really that's definitely influenced the type of stuff I write.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy and sci-fi, and like that's all my favorite genre of books. Like, give me a fantasy book any day. Like, I just love immersive worlds. Yeah, you know, that's just the best part. Just get lost in this cool world. So you mentioned, you know, your first book you started when you were 12, published at 18, and then this one in 2021, you published this one. So your first book, can you give us a little synopsis of what that one's called and what that book was a bit of about? And then in kind of contrast, what your most recent book is about.
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of what your thoughts were, between the two books and how like you said, your style kind of changed throughout that time. So
So I recently reread my first book.
That's sometimes not the best.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe don't read a lot of your earlier work, even if it's published. I mean, it's cute, I think that my first book really speaks to where I was at that age, which
that's understandable.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, even my latest book, I'll probably look back on that 10 years from now and be like, oh, I would have changed things. That's how it is. That's how art is.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. I'm still proud that I got that first book out.
And what the title is?
Yes, I was about to say.
Okay. I want to make sure we tell people about.
I keep going on tangents. My first book is called The King's Heir. My intention for it when I first wrote it and published it was for it to be either a duology or a trilogy.
Okay.
That never was finished. Because I have so many other books that I am writing.
You want to do.
Yeah. But the first book, The King's Heir, centered around several integral characters. And the underlying plot was essentially the throne has been stolen by an imposter, by someone pretending to be the heir to the throne. Years ago, the real heir to the throne went missing, and this man who's now stepping up saying he is the actual heir is not. It's an imposter. And so that sets forth a journey of people who realize he's an imposter having to, try to figure out what his intentions are. Kind of a simple synopsis there. But my influence, it's very like light fantasy with actually some... And this speaks of what type of reading I loved back then. I liked Christian fantasy. So there were some very not subtle, but, like my own type of Christian themes going through them with my own kingdom and my own fantasy, stuff like that. But it had woven within it like a maker, a creator, and that type of... build up to, which is awesome. I read a lot of books like that when I was younger. I was really inspired by like Brian Davis, who wrote the Dragons in Our Midst series. I absolutely loved those. I still love them. And, just ones like that. John White, he wrote this really amazing, immersive type of fantasy world that was based in Christian belief. And it was really well done. And I wanted to also try to do that with my books. The difference now is with my writing, I still have similar themes in the fact of wanting fantasy throughout, wanting it to be like journeys for the characters. I like having multiple characters, but I don't put any type of overlaying theme like that into it. I kind of just let the world be itself and the readers experience it however they need to. And I definitely, like with A Song of Light and Sorrow, the one that I published in 2021, I delved more into themes of grief and loss for obvious reasons. That's what I was going through at the time.
Yeah.
And healing, redemption, in the sense of anyone can read it. You don't have to be a 13-year-old girl who really liked Christian fantasy,
Yeah.
And like I can totally see just the changes on the types of stories that resonate with me within, that span of however long between then. And it's just really cool to be able to see how much you've grown as a writer. My voice has changed completely. Of course, I feel like I've gotten better. That's good. But, I still tell people about The King's Heir, but I'm like, read my newest one.
I did write that one, but here, buy this one instead.
I'm getting better. I think with each book, I get better and better. And I've written others that I haven't published. And it's just each book is a journey in itself. And I think that for me, at least, whatever I'm writing at whatever moment in my life is the book I need to be writing. I have so many in my head all the time, and I'll think, oh, I'm going to start on this one and I'm going to delve into this one. But then some other story pushes to the forefront. And if I pay attention to it, then I find this is what I needed right now. The book I'm currently writing is that, is very much that. So I write mostly for myself. I like to just kind of immerse myself in, anything I read, of course, and then anything I write. So I just hope that I write stuff that people enjoy to read too,
I think that's some of the best art is when the creator is just doing it because they love it. And it's kind of like, I don't really, obviously you want people to read your book, but like, regardless of whether you sell 1 million copies or you sell 5 copies, you are like so proud that you wrote it because it's your book and you wrote it for yourself.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes the best things come out of stuff like that.
That's what I try to tell people, because I know a lot of writers are very perfectionist. I can't put it out until it's perfect. I'm looking at someone in particular. and
we talked about this on the show. We talked about it. Just do the dang thing.
It's like I said, even with A Song of Light and Sorrow, it was exactly what I needed it to be when I published it. A few years from now, or even probably now, if I were to read completely through it, there would be things that I would change, and there would be things that I maybe wish I had written differently, or maybe in the plot, I wish I had done this or this, but that's okay, because at the time that I wrote it, I needed it for me. Yeah. And also, I hope that maybe there are some people that read it and they needed it too for what it was. I think that it's just so good to just get out whatever you have in you, however it needs to be out in that moment. Don't worry about it. Don't nitpick it.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah, it's super exciting. Like I love this book.
Well, thank you.
It was really good. And I kind of read it at the time where I needed to read it, and so it was a really good book. And, I found myself really feeling what the characters were feeling in that book. And, that's how it's a good book when you actually feel for the characters. For sure. It's not just some throwaway character, that's like, oh, this character is annoying. I'm just gonna go. But no, you actually feel for the characters.
Well, thank you. That makes me happy.
I actually put on the internet or on our Facebook or on our social media, like Facebook, we're not Facebook, on our social media, that we're having you on the show. Yeah. And a couple people responded. They're like, I love that book.
Aww.
So
love that
because there's a picture of you, holding the book, and people were like, oh, I love that book. Well, I actually had someone send in some questions for you too.
Oh,
sweet.
So this is from Mars here in Enid.
Sweet.
She asked, 2 questions. Have you considered writing a series like Game of Thrones with multiple books? Which I know you mentioned your first book was supposed to technically be. So with that in mind, would you ever consider doing another actual book series?
Yeah, I have definitely considered it. The book I'm currently writing, I feel like it's going to be a standalone. It may be a duology. And for me, the stories kind of just make themselves as I write. I do plot. I'm not a full pantser. Like, I'm not a full to fly by the seat of my pantser. But I do
definitely storyboard.
I do storyboard. I do lay out scenes. I have like directions I'm going in. And sometimes I have, okay, it could end this way or it could end this way, and I don't know. I've definitely considered having a series. I don't know if I could be that awesome and dedicated to do what as long as Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's like once a generation, twice a generation kind of thing. Well, I guess there's a lot of things to do that, but that's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, I definitely, I would like to, at some point, do a series that at least has 2 or 3.
In the same world.
In the same world and the same continuation of story or characters. I want to do that. We'll see if a story like totally that presents itself.
Awesome. Well, that'd be cool to see.
Yeah.
And another question is, what is the best part about becoming an author?
Okay. So nothing beats the feeling of writing those last few words and knowing that you did it.
Yeah.
Literally. That's it for me.
Totally.
I get so obsessive when I'm writing a book and when I'm putting it together. I mean, I make my own covers and I do all my formatting and editing, and the amount of times you read through your book and, you know, the revisions. And when you get to that point where you're literally like finishing up that last bit and you have it in your hands, nothing beats that feeling. I would say that's the best part.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think there's something really, I have this thing in my head where I build things up in my mind to a point where when I actually have done something, it feels like I almost feel like it's a letdown because I built it up so much. So like I had the feeling of writing and putting books together was really fun. And I love the process of doing that. And then I get to the end and I'm like, oh, it's over. And I remember when you were working on this one and I was reading parts after you had written them and we would have conversations about them. And when we got to the end of your book, I was like choked up because the ending was so good. And in your case, you wrote the story, designed the cover. You have poetry all throughout the book, which is beautiful. And the process of like seeing you go through all this stuff and then having this finished product, that to me was like the feeling that I always wanted to feel doing stuff on my own. And so it was really cool to be able to like witness that with you and then see you actually accomplish and then have this product and then go out with you to like book signings and go with you and see you interact with people. And it was really funny because you would talk with people about your book and then you would kind of like end the conversation. And then I would step in and be like, what she won't tell you is this cover, like she designed herself, like she drew all the detail and all this stuff. So in a way it was like, I got to kind of experience that through you because you had your book out before I had mine. And it was just a really good feeling to like witness that and kind of take that journey with you. And then by the time I came around to mine, it was like, oh, my book's done. Oh man, I kind of missed the whole thing of doing it, you know? And so I just remember the feeling that I got to like share with you as you went through that journey. And it was really special.
Yeah. And it's special to have you with me during it. 'Cause he did, read through scenes or chapters as I would finish them, which that was the first time I'd ever had anyone to actually read anything I was writing it as I was writing it. And having that was so good for me because so much of what we do as artists, I think for the most part, is you're doing it alone.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
Very true.
When you have someone who is there with you throughout it, however they can be with you, means so much. And, you know, even having friends who, I mean, you know, when you guys showed up to one of my signings in Stillwater,
that was fun.
That was the best
support
feeling.
Each other.
Yeah, that was the best feeling because when I was younger, I didn't have that as much. I had my parents who were my number one fans, of course. And then
That'd be weird if they weren't.
Right. They're like, yeah. You know, I published my first book when I was so young, and then I was like, what do I do with it? You know? And that was probably also contributing factor of why I didn't write anything for a bit because I was like, I don't really know. It's a lot to do by myself.
From here, you know?
Yeah. I love doing everything by myself. I love doing all of the cover art and all of the formatting. I love that stuff. But it is a lot to do by yourself and then put out there and then be like, okay, I'm done, you know? And this time with my latest novel has been so different than my first novel, the experience, because I have gotten the book out there and it's been a couple years now and I still have people supporting me through it.
Yeah.
And awesome. That seriously is the best feeling. Like, I mean, you know, so that's also coupled on with finishing the book, having that satisfaction of knowing you can accomplish it.
Yeah.
And then also having the warmth of knowing that you're surrounded by people that want to read your stuff and want to see you succeeding. Yeah. Like, that's a super good feeling. And I mean, I just want to do this all my life. I just want to publish book after book after book because I just want to pursue this. It's like pursuing a high, honestly, of just having that high of I did this and I feel so good, you know?
Yeah. That was fun to be able to read through stuff and then have conversations with you about it. And it generated a lot of ideas too,
so
because you would say, hey, read this and tell me what you think. And you might have a scene where you're like, I don't know how the scene is going. I don't know if it's like what it is. And so we would read it and then we just start talking about it. And just talking about it, you kind of flesh out, maybe the character would feel this way in that situation or something. And so it's like kind of a testament to how important it is to have people in your corner. But if you are a creative, you need to be around other creatives because you need people that can say, dude, I really like this. What if this character also was dealing with this concept or something? When you don't have that type of support, you will feel like I'm a crappy writer because someone's going to read it and they're like, oh, it's good. Well, what do you think? What do you think about this? Well, how do you feel about this? No, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Or just like, nah, it was okay. And like, it'll give you a complex because if you're not around the right people, then you will not be able to like get past the weirdness of how people who don't understand respond when you are asking questions or seeking advice or things like that.
Yeah. It's definitely good to be around people who actually know what you're trying to think through and process when you're writing a book or when you're making something, creating anything. Because they're the people that say, oh, it's good. They mean it, but they don't know what you're needing.
They have no value to give,
because there definitely were scenes that I had to just talk through with you and be like, okay, how does this make you feel if this happens? Or, and you being able to be that sounding board for me to know, okay, this is how the reader will experience it.
Yeah.
Is just priceless because, I mean, not a lot of writers probably get that. So it's very, very good to have. I'm going to keep you, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I was hoping.
Yeah.
Geez, I can rest easy now. Stick around.
And so, as creatives, people, whether you're a writer, artist, whatever, kind of going back to what you said, your first book, 12 to 18, that was 6 years. And then your second book, you got all that wrapped up in about 3 months, And so obviously there's a huge difference there, and for me, it took me for a while to do my first book, and so that journey is going to be different for everybody, whether it's, like I said, you're writing or you're an artist, whatever it is, that journey is going to be different to complete the thing or to at least even get the thing started. So where do you think that you find your motivation to get the story done, to get your from what's in your mind onto paper, where do you think that motivation comes from, or what kind of keeps you motivated to do that?
Oh, I've been kind of thinking this through, trying to think that, like, what is my key motivation? Why do I do this? Not only is it pursuing the high that I get, because that's a big part of it.
That's a big one.
That's a big part of it. The satisfaction in accomplishing it. So it's like you're racing toward that. It's also the everyday, for me, proving to myself that I can do it. And for me, creating is basically my outlet for feeling alive and for feeling like myself. And anytime I've been in places where I haven't been able to create in any way you could think of it, in painting or, sketching or brainstorming ideas or stories, if I'm in a place where that's not available to me because life just kind of sucks time or whatever, or motivation, I start feeling like, what am I even doing with my life? You know? So, and that kind of is a little depressing. I don't mean to be depressing. It's just that for me,
please be depressing.
That's true though.
Most of art is depressing, I guess. I like to prove to myself that you can do this and it's okay for you to want to pursue this. You don't have to push it to the side anymore. And it's worth it. And, you know, I have to remind myself of that a lot, because there are days where it's hard to write, of course. And there are days where, I mean, I'm just staring at the same paragraph forever. And I'm like, what even? But it's just the telling myself, you can do this. You know, you can. And it's not only because I've published other novels. It's just, I know because the stories are in me. So they're there for a reason. I genuinely believe whatever it is you have inside you. And it's just reminding yourself that that's worth being out in the world. And that helps me a lot. And
you can't not do it. You have to do it. It's a part of you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It, I like I said, I just don't feel like myself when I'm not writing or reading or learning something new. I mean, ask Ben. I don't know. I think I have an obsessive personality anyway.
Just a little bit.
I really like learning new things and delving into new things. And I mean, I'm constantly researching things because to me, that is so fulfilling. To even if I'm just researching something and I'm watching videos on how to do something that I might never do, I have that knowledge now. And I'm like, you know, I know something. Yeah. So even that for me, that is the pursuit of creating. And that is the pursuit of being myself. I think that it's a constant growth, just learning who I am and learning the things I enjoy. I mean, I think I enjoy everything so far. You know, I love researching everything and learning as much as I can. And even if I'm not writing every single day, I am pursuing the things that nourish my brain, nourish my imagination. That's important. Yeah, I think that that's super important. And that's my motivation, is just constantly pursuing that.
Yeah, I love that when you said, I don't feel like myself, you know, if I'm not writing or if I'm not creating. You know, I think that's very important. You know, it's like, I don't feel like myself if I'm not doing the things that give me life. You know, and there's just so, I mean, life sucks a lot sometimes, you know, when, you know, you find yourself working in a job you don't like, or, you know, having so much responsibilities that you don't get the time to create, or, you know, or doing the things you love. If your thing is sports and you don't get to play sports, you know, or at least get involved somehow, and you're just like, I don't feel like myself because I'm not doing those things.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's motivation enough to, like, you need to fill yourself. You need to feed yourself that the things that your soul desires, whatever that outlet may be, you know, writing, you know, poetry, writing, art, accountant who loves accounting, just loves numbers, and that gives them life. Problem solving, you know, like, I think it's really important that we have to recognize those times where we need to start feeding ourselves that creativity, that the opportunity to do those things, you know. And obviously there's a lot of scenarios where you may not be able to become a full-time writer or become, you know, a full-time musician, but you can still do some things. You can still do some things, even if it's just an hour here and there, an hour a week. You need to do those things to fill yourself, you know. So when you said that, I was like, that's just so important. You know, we need to feel like ourselves.
You're like denying a part of yourself. When you can't engage in it, that's one thing. But when you intentionally don't, then you're denying a part of who you are.
Yeah. And I feel like we hear that a lot as creatives. Go get a day job, or, you know, and we're not hearing that as much, I think, in this day and time. I think that creativity and, you know, expressing yourself and your imagination, all of that is a lot more seen and valued now. But we do still, at least I do sometimes still get the feeling from certain people. They're like, okay, you're a writer. What else do you do? You know, or
so how do you get your money?
What's your real job?
Yeah, exactly. What's your real job?
It's just like, you know, does everything have to be about that?
Does Can I just do things that make me happy?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Does my worth really have to be defined by what I'm making from it? Other than, is it making me feel fulfilled in myself? I think that's the most important thing. And that's what we should be pursuing. Just everyone, exactly. Whatever your passion is. I think everyone has a passion, and everyone has something that they were made to do or made to love, no matter what it is. And I just want to encourage everyone to pursue those things. And that's what I try to do when people ask me about my writing, because I know so many writers who act as if it's impossible to write a book.
Yeah.
And I know I wrote my last one really quick. That was because I needed it as therapy. That's why I wrote it so fast.
It was that perfect time in your life.
Exactly.
It just
fell into place. It was what it needed to be. And the current book I'm writing, I've been writing it for a couple years, honestly. I started writing that book before this book.
We started talking about that a while ago.
Some stories, they just evolve as they need. They create themselves as they need to. And that's okay as long as you're giving into it and paying attention to it, paying attention to that part of yourself that keeps thinking about that story.
Yeah.
I woke up at 5 a.m. the other morning. I couldn't fall back asleep. And so I just laid there and I thought about a story that I may start writing next after the current one I'm writing, even though I had another one planned. You just kind of just give into that. There's a reason why it's there. I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And listeners, whether it takes you 6 years to write the book or the 3 months to write a book or 2 years, there is no defined timeline. So don't feel like a failure if you're like, why can't I write a book in 3 months?
Yeah.
And don't feel like a failure if you're like, it's been 6 years and I still haven't published this thing. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
Art takes time, creativity takes time, and it'll get done when the time is right, and in the time that maybe those 6 years it needed to be published at that time, and anything before that wouldn't have been as successful or been needed at that time, or the person out there in the world that needed it wasn't around yet.
Seriously.
Exactly.
And so it's okay if it takes you 6 years. It's okay if it takes you 3 months. It's okay.
Yeah,
the journey is different for everybody.
Exactly.
The only way to actually fail is to intentionally not do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is to give up on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ben, what about you? How do you find your motivation to create?
I find motivation in pressure a lot of times. I think when there is a need for something and I have to step in and fill a need in some way, that's really good for me. I do better under that type of circumstance. So having writing prompts is really good. Yeah. And because we have to have them done because we're going to read them for everybody. Deadline. We got deadline. That's good. I can work with that. I do a lot of my writing is coming from mind dumping. So if I have a lot of emotions or a lot of feelings or something, that's a lot of times my way of processing is just getting everything out. Yeah. When it comes to just doing stuff in general, motivation is a lot easier when there's pressure to do it. If everything is chill and everything's going good and it's smooth and there's no pressure or there's no intensity or something, and I have the chance to get lax or not lazy, but to take it easy, I start to get anxious because I'm I should be doing something. I don't know what I need to be doing. And I think there's something really valuable about putting pressure on yourself. I think there's something valuable about having a deadline or at least having a goal or a list or a timeline or something that you have for yourself. Because if I don't have that, it may never get done. And I'm going to stress out about the fact that, I have to do this thing, but I keep putting it off because there's no indefinite time for it or something.
Yeah.
So, I guess for me, it's just I need to put pressure on myself because if I don't, I probably am not going to go hard in getting it done, or I'm not going to push myself because my brain for some reason goes into sleep mode when there's no pressure on there.
I think for you, from what we've talked about, I think it's when you don't have a set, this is what I'm doing, you see everything as a whole and maybe get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, I can agree with
because
that.
Because it's so many things I need to be doing and I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So then, like you said.
So I don't do anything.
Like you said, though, having a goal, setting even daily goals for yourself or having a list that you do every day. Yeah. There are two types of writers, the fly by the seat of your pants, pantsers, or the plotters. And I mean, there's people in between. I fall kind of in between. But, you know, for the plotters, they look at the pantsers and they're like, that's way too much stress because, I mean, how do you not plan out what you're doing? You know, there's definitely a comfort in having structure. And at least like when you have even a loose structure of where you're going, you can have a little bit of like, okay, well, I can start here on days where maybe you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know exactly what to take hold of.
Yeah, there is comfort in having structure. You always have something to come back to. You have something to help ground you. So if you have something you're working towards and you feel like you're getting lost or you're feeling overwhelmed, you can just come back to your initial list or your initial like thing, your goal or something, and kind of get back on track or reset. If you don't have some sort of structure in that way, that's when the anxiety comes in and you're like, oh crap, what am I even doing? Where is this even going? Like, why am I even doing this? This is so pointless. So I think motivation for me looks like giving myself some type of structure. I'm not great with like very detail oriented stuff, because if it's super detailed and then I have to get into detail, then I'm going to focus on detail and then I'm going to focus on detail about the detail. And then it's going to get out of hand and then it's going to get overwhelming. If I don't have any structure whatsoever, my brain is like, you know, I'm free. You don't have to do this today. You can do this tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you're like, you get into it. You're like, I just don't feel like doing this. I'm not going to do this. A month goes by and you're like, I haven't written anything. And now I'm getting stressed. Because I know I'm supposed to do this when I don't even know when I'm supposed to do it. And it's just getting out of hand. And so I need some sort of goal or structure or list or something to at least help me stay grounded.
Gotcha.
And that's what works for me usually.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I am also a pantser though.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Like I have to go in the moment. I have to go with the emotion. But I think that's kind of the beauty of poetry. It's purely like irrational, emotional,
whatever in the moment.
Spewing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But what about you, Corey?
What motivates you, sir?
Sometimes I like to use the deadlines.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes I have to do that to myself too. Otherwise I won't get anything done. But one of the big motivators for me, and it's going to sound really dark.
Ooh.
And I'll explain when I say it. So death is a motivator for me in the sense of
get that.
Like, I have a lot of like freak out moments about this is like, we have one freaking life to live. We have
so much time.
And we only have so much time.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is like, I don't want to die without leaving something for the world. And that's kind of, honestly, that's kind of the big motivator for me is like, I got to do something. Like, I don't want to do the same thing for the rest of my life. I don't want to be the person that works the same job for 50 years, retires, and enjoys the last few years of their life, you know, after having to work their whole life. I'm like, I want to learn to do art. I want to learn to write. I want to do video. I want to do graphic. I want to play. You know, I want to do all these things because I'm like, I've got one life to live on this planet.
Yeah.
You know, why not enjoy everything? You know, I've had a lot of jobs in my life and a lot of people are like, so you get fired a lot? I'm like, no. I want to do different things. Like, I don't want to have the same job my whole life. I had landscaping jobs. I've worked in the restaurant industries. You know, I've done coffee. I've done so much different things. I'm just like, because I want to experience life and experience things because we're not promised a full life, you know? And so sometimes I tell people that, they're like, oh, that's kind of dark. Well, it's like, well, I mean, death should be a motivator for me to get stuff done because I don't want to die and be like, what did I leave for the world? You know, what are people going to remember me by? Did I have something out there in the world that years from now people can look at and be like, oh, this is cool. I don't know who this guy is, but he did something cool, you know? And so that's kind of a big motivator for me.
That totally makes sense.
That's a great reason.
Yeah. And I feel like we all have our different motivations and things that motivate us. Some, it's just different for everybody, but I feel like motivation is a big thing, you know, to get things done and whatever you need to do to help you get your project's finished or even to get started on learning something. You know, it's like, find what motivates you, find that thing that's going to get you out of the seat and go learn how to paint or type your very first sentence of your story.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, find what's going to take to get you to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a big difference between motivation and inspiration.
Oh, 100%.
And I feel
100%.
like you can be inspired and you can motivate yourself, but you cannot wait for inspiration. They do not go hand in hand. You have to have motivation.
100%.
And one of the places that I can get tripped up is if I do not feel inspired, it's very hard for me to motivate myself because you buy that place in your brain where it's like, well, I don't want to force something. I don't want to make something up and then it's stupid, you know? And that's all writing is. Like, you cannot wait for motivation or for inspiration because you will never write like anything.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times motivation forces that inspiration. But I have to be able to find a way to make something happen. And sometimes inspiration comes out of that. And sometimes
I was gonna say, sometimes that the motivation to just do it, a lot of times that's what's going to bring the inspiration for you.
For sure. Yeah, but you can't sit around and wait for that inspiration because it's not coming. And the older you get, especially,
that's true.
Like the less inspiration you're going to have.
Yeah.
Because you are going to get caught up in the world. You're going to see the bad side of life. And if you're not careful, you will miss good stuff. If you get too far into that, the bad side will motivate you, like will inspire you. And then all the stuff you write is going to be depressing and downtrodden and sad. And so I think that, I think it's good to have some stuff that's real and sad, but if you are focused on inspiration alone, whatever's around you is going to be that inspiration. And that's kind of not good. That's not healthy because there's so much dreariness and sadness and drab, boring, lonely, depressing stuff in the world, especially now. So if you are not finding some way to push yourself outside of your surroundings, like, it's not happening. It's not going to happen.
No, so true. So true. Awesome. Well, I would love to keep talking about this forever, but we also kind of got to keep the little bit of time constraint on the show because honestly, we could sit here talking forever. It's been great. So real quick, Hogan, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so great having you as a first guest. So real quick, where can people find more out about you? Where can they find your books? Tell people where to get stuff.
I brought the book. You can find me on what?
Let me see it.
There we go. He's putting it up for the camera. So you can find me on my website. It's hoganburleigh.com. And my book is also available online through any book retailer, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all that fun stuff. And my other book is also available. They both are. But I suggest my newest one.
Song of Light and Sorrow.
That's my baby. The Song of Light and Sorrow. But yeah, it's all available on my website or on Amazon. It's on Kindle, hardback or paperback. And yeah, I'm also on Instagram at Hogan Burleigh, and I'm on TikTok if you guys are into that. I love TikTok. I'm at Hogan Breathes in Ink on TikTok. But yeah, like if anyone wants to connect about books or reading, I'm all about that.
Totally.
Awesome. Yeah. And listeners, we'll put the links in the show notes, and on YouTube, you'll find the link in the description to all of this so people can find you. And also I thought it'd be fun since we're with an author today and talking about writing. So before we draw our next prompt, so you're stuck on a desert island. Which 3 books are you taking with you?
Jeez.
Yep.
That's
got to do the desert island. 3 books, no explanations. What are they?
Do you know the story about there was two famous philosophers who were asked that question. One guy was really spiritual and he said, "Oh, the Bible," because he's sounding all whatever. And the other guy was like, "Johnson's Guide to Shipmaking."
Yes.
Like, that's what I'm taking.
That's what I'm taking.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Ugh.
Okay, you can name one book.
One book.
Oh, that's even harder.
You go.
Oh gosh. Well, for me, it's always going to change.
I guess what pertains to now.
Yes. Okay. Right now, in the place in my life, probably Catherine Arden's "The Bear and the Nightingale."
Yeah.
Or
I know that's a favorite.
Or Charlie Holmberg's "The Paper Magician." I'm really liking those two authors right now. They're really awesome.
Nice. I would probably rather have a TV. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Says the writer. Well, I guess you could write TV shows.
Yeah, I guess.
Try that.
The visual thing is cool. Gosh, I'm trying to think of a book that I've just really right now. The book that I've got in my backpack is Pablo Neruda's 20 Poems and a Song of Despair. That one's really good if we're talking poetry.
Nice.
That's the most recent book that I'm reading and the one that I've been like carrying around with me for coffee shop stuff. So
Yeah. What about you, Corey?
First book probably be Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell.
Okay.
I freaking love that
Yeah.
book. Stardust, Neil Gaiman.
nice.
And then of course A Song of Light and Sorrow by Hogan Burleigh. See what I did there? You need to buy the book.
Yep.
All right. I think it's time to draw our next prompt. All right. Get that random number generator ready. So I always pull it up and then I close my phone and close my note out and have to pull it back up again. All right. So we're doing 1 through 10. I had to move some prompts around and now we're back to 10 prompts to choose from.
Sweet.
And I will let you know if you have to re-roll.
Generate. Ooh. Number 10.
Re-roll.
Okay.
Because that's also Lauren and she gave us last week's
gotcha,
prompt.
okay.
So we're not going to have the same person twice in a row.
Number 4.
Ooh, Chrissy Giuliano.
Nice.
The prompt for next week. Thank you, Chrissy, for submitting your prompt. It is something you feel is underappreciated or underrated.
Ooh. Okay.
Nice. All right, so we have to write a poem for next week. Something you feel is underappreciated or underrated.
Interesting.
I think A Song of Light and Sorrow is very underrated right now, so you need to go pick it up because it is going to blow up.
Well, thank you.
All right.
I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.
All right. That's a good prompt.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Well done.
Yeah.
Good job.
Sweet.
Good prompt, Kristen.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us for episode 4 of Two Poets.
Yeah, this has
we're
been fun.
excited to be back for next week with episode 5. Can't wait to see what future guests we're going to have, but we got to have our first amazing guests on here. So I'm Corey.
I'm Hogan.
I'm Ben.
We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah.
Peace.